Jazakallah everyone for waiting. I really appreciate it. This um, this is the launch of our first ever inaugural online lecture series. This will be a monthly endeavor, and inshallah, you'll see a lot of benefit for all those people who are here. This is targeting all those people who have converted maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago, or maybe just a few months ago as well. And we can learn from each other as well. And today we've got two amazing speakers as well that we'll be listening to. We've got first and foremost respected Nisar Orchard Sahib, who'll be giving a somewhat brief speech on Zikr-e-ilahi, remembrance of God Almighty, and swiftly followed by Sherwain, who converted not so long ago, a few years ago, and he'll be giving his account on how he accepted Islam Ahmadiyyat and his experience in the Ahmadi Muslim community as well. Without further ado, we shall start off with silent prayer. If I can request respected Nisar Orchard Sahib to lead us in silent prayer, and we shall commence the inaugural session.
Please join me in a silent prayer. Ameen.
Ameen, Ameen. Nisar Sahib, the floor is yours. Whenever you're ready, we're itching to hear your account. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah, Jalisa. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious and ever merciful. I would like to wish all our listeners and viewers a very, very warm Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And Jazakallah, I feel very, very privileged to be on this inaugural platform of the new Ahmadis department. And as Jalisa says, it will be initially fairly brief. And he did mention the topic is in relation to the remembrance of Allah. Already, if you, at the top of this address, I said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah. I've already invoked his name. Everything that we do, we always take Allah's name. So we already have remembered Allah. And that should be the fabric of our lives, always remembering Allah. There is a verse in the Holy Quran, chapter 2, verse 153. It goes, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Fazkuruni askurkum washkuruli wala takfurun. Remember me and I will remember you. Be thankful to me and do not be ungrateful to me. And there's many, many other parts in the Quran that reminds us to remember Allah at all times. To begin with, I just want to share a quote with you. The origin of the quote, I can't remember. I think a politician used it once, and I believe it was probably the ex-Prime Minister, David Cameron. And he said, it is not where you have come from, but it is where you are going. Now, this applies to all of us, whether you are a born Ahmadi, a born-again Ahmadi, or a new convert. This applies to all of us. We are at this common starting point, and we have a common goal, and we're on a journey. Now, that journey is in order to attain, basically, and to win the pleasure of Allah. And in order to win the pleasure of Allah, we always have to remember him in our everyday busy life. We have to take out time to remember Allah at all times. Now, the most common way to remember Allah is through worship. There is the formal worship of saying prayers, your 5 times a day prayers. Now, it is good that prayers is split up 5 times in a day, a morning prayer, 2 afternoon prayers, an early evening prayer, and a late evening prayer before you go to sleep. So our day is punctuated by 5 times of praying formally to Allah so that we remember Allah. but it's also those times in between, because normally prayers takes 10, 15 minutes, but we still have so many hours in a day to remember Allah. And what I actually want to focus on now is basically that other way to remember Allah, and that is also through righteous deeds, good works. And there are many, many opportunities that we have every day. Maybe we don't realize it, but we should try to think that, yes, I am doing this for Allah, as opposed to unknowingly doing something to win the pleasure of Allah. And I'm going to actually share with you 7 steps in order to how to acquire moral values, virtuous deeds, for you to execute them in your day-to-day life. I actually just want to, before I do so, I'm going to own up, and this is not my work. I've actually taken this from my father's work, okay? Now, it's quite relevant for me to mention my father, because he was also a convert many, many years ago, back in the 1940s. And I need to give you reference to this book, because just in case I forget it at the end, what actually started him on this journey was that an Ahmadi Muslim gave him the book, The Philosophy of Teachings of Islam. And since he held that book back in the 40s, he never put it down. He has, without any exaggeration, read that book more than 50 times, 50 times. And it's a small book, but it's not an easy read, you see, okay? So you have to read it again and again and again in order for us to achieve that common goal, in order to be next to Allah, to win Allah's pleasure. And in that book, there are 3 stages of that journey: Nafs-e Amara, Nafs-e Lawama, and Nafs-e Mutmahinna. These are the 3 stages I'm not going to go into, but please, I encourage you to read the book, The Philosophy of Teachings of Islam, because that is the journey that we are all on. Now, again, my father used this, and he actually formulated 7 steps in order to achieve that goal. And I'm going to quickly share those 7 steps with you, okay? Basically, it's developing moral virtues for you to execute on your daily basis between your prayers, between the formal prayers. The first one is actually, number 1 is stages of moral advancement. Now, there are 3 parts to stages of moral advancement in terms of how you're actually progressing in life morally. Number 1, doing good for others. Now, the formal prayers is known as Aquq Allah, the fulfilling the rights of Allah, saying your formal prayers. This part that I'm focused on is Aquq Abad, fulfilling the rights of your fellow human being. And that is also a form of worship as well. When you do good deeds, you are remembering Allah that way as well. You are winning the pleasure of Allah. So the stages of moral advancement, number 1, i.e. doing good for others. We should at least treat others in the same way that they treat us. Return good for good. Also doing better for others. Return better treatment and greater good for that which we have received. So when someone does good to you, you return even better back to them. And also the last point regarding moral advancement is that doing good for others without expecting any return, okay? Never hint to that person that he is under any obligation, okay? So again, you're doing it to win the pleasure of Allah. The second point on this 7-stage journey is moral virtues. There are so many moral virtues to acquire that I will read out a whole number of them for you, from modesty, charity, courage, goodness, generosity, honesty, self-respect, hospitality, cleanliness, love, chastity, and so many more, okay? You know, they are in abundance. I describe moral values, righteous values. They're like fruits from hanging from a low-lying branch. You can easily pick them, okay? That's how easy it is to acquire moral virtues. They are fruits hanging from a low-hanging branch. These things are free in life, what I just mentioned to you right now. So please, always remember that, okay, that these moral virtues, okay, are easily available to each and every person, and that should be your quest on a daily basis, not just to recognize them, but to execute it as well. Of course, we know that the best exemplar, of moral virtues is our beloved Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah. I just want to share a small poem in relation to this, regarding the excellent exemplar, our beloved Prophet, may peace and blessing of Allah be upon him. What a noble man, what a comely man. His breath smells like the breath of flowers. God is visible in his face. Such are his virtues, such is his case. That is why he is loved. Indeed, his virtues demand that he should be loved to the exclusion of all. Easy of access, noble, bounteous, friend of the God-fearing, and he excels all in excellence and nobility, in glory and the beauty of the soul. Muhammad, may peace and Allah be upon him, is the best of creatures, the soul of the nobles, the elect of the elect. All noble virtues have found their limit in him. By God, Muhammad is next to God, and through him alone can we reach God. He is the pride of the pious, the holies. He is the pride of the men of virtue. He excels all those who were honored before him. Indeed, excellence is a matter of virtue and not of time. Now, the next point out of the 7 steps is that earnest objective. We have to have an earnest objective in life. For example, in life, if you are going to have an interview for your dream job, you will prepare for it, you will focus, and you'll make sure you want to get that job, you're prepared. Likewise, if you want to attain these virtues, again, focus on it. I want to become more of a patient man, more of a kind man, more of a disciplined person. You should focus on it so that you could attain it. In the Holy Quran, chapter 5, verse 85, it says, we earnestly wish that our Lord should include us amongst the righteous people. That is our objective as well, okay, in order to win the pleasure of Allah. Also, prayers, I mentioned earlier, prayers is the formal way, and prayers is basically the remembrance of Allah indeed is the greatest virtue. Out of kindness, out of love, out of sympathy, out of goodness, out of all of those virtues, the remembrance of Allah indeed is the greatest virtue. Number 5, thinking, how you think. We have to be spiritually cleansed. We have to be physically cleansed, but also our mind has to be cleansed as well, okay? So thoughts come through our mind. Our mind has to be a filter. If you entertain immoral thoughts, then that will reflect in your immoral character. If you entertain virtuous thoughts, then it will be reflected in your character as a virtuous person in yourself. So basically, your mind is like a garden. Make sure you take out all the weeds and keep all the beautiful, colorful, lovely smelling flowers, okay, in your mind, okay? So look after your thoughts as well at the same time. The number 6 is perseverance, perseverance. The reason why I'm focusing on this, okay, I do have a mountain called Mount Taqwa. If you want to get to the top of Mount Taqwa, acquiring kindness, modesty, charity, humbleness, nobility, tolerance, and so forth, it's not an easy thing. It is quite a steep mountain. Why do I say that? Because the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, he said that the biggest struggle, the big jihad, is not the one out in the battlefield killing people. That's the small jihad. The big jihad is your nafs, is your soul, trying to show forgiveness, trying to show patience to other people. That is the big jihad, okay? In the philosophy of teachings of Islam, it mentions the highest stage is nafs mutmahinna, when you are at one with Allah, you are at peace with Allah, you think of Allah all the time. And last but not least, is simplicity. Simplicity is also a characteristic of righteousness, of virtuousness. Simplicity is a characteristic of virtuous living. And the Holy Prophet has, peace and blessing of Allah be upon him, has warned against leading a life of luxury. Beware of leading a life of luxury, for verily the servants of God never live luxurious lives. I started off by saying, Faskuruni askurkum washkuruli wala takfurun. Remember me and I will remember you. Be thankful to me and do not be ungrateful to me. We as human beings living in this world, we should live within our means, okay? Not out of our means. We should not be living extravagant lives. We should be grateful. We should be thankful to what Allah has given us, okay? And do not be ungrateful to him. So again, what I'd like to try to emphasize today is that not only through the formal way of worship, the 5 times a day, also it is through righteous deeds. That is also a form of worship as well. And these are available to us. We have many opportunities in order for you to become a better moral and spiritual person. May Allah enable all of us to heed these words. They're not my words. I'm just the messenger here, so that we can all become better moral and spiritual people. Jazakallah for having given me this opportunity, Jalisa.
Sorry, Jazakallah, Nisar Sahib. Amazing stuff. As usual, we really appreciate you taking out your time and giving such a comprehensive rundown of these 7 characteristics that we should be trying to instill in ourselves. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Just something you mentioned at the end regarding gratefulness. In the Holy Quran, it mentions, La in shakartum la azidannakum. That if you are grateful, then I shall surely bless the already blessings that I've already bestowed upon you. Just a quick reminder to be always grateful with what you have. Jazakallah, thank you so much, Nisar Sahib. May Allah bless you abundantly.
Jazakallah.
I think we'll move now on to our dear brother Sherwain Nurse. Sherwain Sahib, is it possible if you can turn your camera on and say salam to everyone? That'd be really good.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, Sherwain Sahib. How are you doing? How are you doing tonight? How's everything?
All good, alhamdulillah. You okay?
Yeah, I'm very well. I'll hand the stage over to you. The topic that I mentioned in the beginning that you'll be kind of covering was your account towards, or your account that you will be giving, inshallah, is about your journey to Islam Ahmadiyyat and your experience in Islam Ahmadiyyat. It would be great to get to know you as well, personally as well. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself as well and your journey towards Islam Ahmadiyyat. The floor is yours. Jazakallah.
Assalamu alaikum. What can I say? I came to live in England back in 1994 to live with my dad and my stepmom. And obviously I was only 8 at that time, so I was thinking I was coming to live with my dad. But my life living here with my dad and my stepmom was basically, I was like a male version of Cinderella in my house. My parents never supported me through school, through anything. Like I literally struggled in school because coming from a country that the education system wasn't that good. And obviously I grew up in a Christian family, Christian background. And throughout life, I watched like my stepmom and my dad mistreat me, like treat my brother and my stepsister, my stepbrother and my stepsister with all the best things and literally buy me things from the market. And obviously it was hard for me growing up as a young boy. And I remember there was been times I used to be sitting at my windowsill crying and asking God, why am I here? Why did he bring me here? And for years, life kept on being the same until I was kicked out when I was 18 and literally had to fend for myself. And all the time I used to cry and I asked God why, but never knowing all the time God had a plan for me. So eventually obviously I got involved with a lot of street crimes and stuff. I was involved with gangs. A lot of people would never believe when I told them, but I was the actual gang leader. Me and one of my friends who still lives in Peckham now, we was a gang leader. We used to lead about 50 boys who used to rob people and stuff like that. And that went on for a few years until I was arrested. And I was meant to do 6.5 years in prison. And literally when I was arrested and locked up in a cell, my life flashed before me, and I literally got down on my knees there and I asked God to help me to come out of this situation. I promised I'll change my life. And that prayer I said then was sincere, and I managed to get free from that 6.5 years of prison sentence. And I did try to stay on a good path, but obviously being a young guy at that time had no one around you to support you, I still was leading astray and doing the wrong stuff. There's times I was in church, and there's some pictures I have when I was sitting in a church. You would not think I was sitting in a church. You probably think I'm sitting at a party or something, or how I was dressed, with sunglasses on, my earpiece in, and this is someone who was operating the sound equipment for the microphones and something, things like that. But that went on for years. As I said, I went through different churches, kept on searching for God. I wanted peace. But what I found in Christianity and the churches is that everything was like a competition. People was doing things to please the pastor. They wasn't doing things generally for God. And the church was constantly pestering you about money. They were making you feel like you're robbing God because you're not paying your tithes and offering. And the church I used to go to, they used to be open literally 7 days a week, and they used to have like 4 services a day. And imagine every single one of those services are collecting tithes and offering from people. So sometimes that could feel like a pressure on you as a member of that church, because you're constantly feel like you need to give. Even if you're poor, they expect you to be giving. And sometimes they became too much. Every year they have these things, they call it Campaign of Israel, where people sacrifice salary, their savings, their cars and stuff like that for something bigger. But for me, I thought, where is this money going? Like, I never saw it going back into helping the members of the church who were struggling. And me being a person who struggled myself growing up, never had nothing, I always wanted to give back. Even though I never had, in my heart, I always said to myself, you know what, I want to give back to the community. And God always guided me to like jobs and positions where I was able to help and guide other people. And I always say to people, like, never look at me and think I had the world given to me. No, I said I had to fend for a lot of stuff, but God's guided me, and I put my trust in when He guided me. And as I said, after a while, I fell out of love with how things was within Christianity, and I just wanted something new, because there was a lot. As I said, I had a lot of persecution in the church. I never felt like I was um cared for. I was belonged in the right place, because as I said, there was more people after title and positions, and I wasn't there for that. I just wanted to serve God. I just wanted to help His people. I just wanted to give my best. And I couldn't find it after a while in the church, so I just lost the connection with the church. And I was in a meeting one time, and I heard someone mention Ahmadiyya, and I was like, I've never heard, because I had a lot of Muslim friends at that time that I used to hang around. I remember even one of my friends where I used to work in Peckham, he had a stall next door to my workplace, and I used to watch his stall when he used to go for Jummah prayers. And even though he was Muslim, he always used to say to me, one day you're going to be Muslim. And I said, inshallah, obviously at that time. But I never knew where God was going to take me. And as I said, I found out about Ahmadiyya back in 2019, and I started YouTubing it. That's when I first saw Huzuru's Friday sermon. And even though I didn't understand it, I just kept on watching it. And one of the first thing I saw was the Bayat sermon, which drew my attention. I think it was the 2019 one, when I saw everyone connected. And for some reason, me just watching that, God said that you need to be a part of this. Like, this is what you need. Because just me watching, I felt that connection. I felt that brotherly, that love, that connection, that unity there. And when I looked at it, I thought, wow, like, I've never felt like this watching anything that we had in the church. And we had loads of meetings, loads of gatherings and stuff like that, but I never felt that connection there. And it's like, something said to me, I need to get hold of these people. I need to find. So I just kept on looking into it. Obviously, lockdown came. So it was hard. I was working and stuff, going through a lot of family issues. And then eventually, I think it was 2021, I was in Guildford, and I saw Nisar Orchard in Guildford at a Tabligh stall. And I literally spoke to him, and it was just coincident that we was talking, and he was just saying, like, he asked me where I was from, and I told him I'm from Guyana, South America, and he said, "Oh, it's funny, I was born there." And I was like, "Oh, that's a coincidence." It was just funny. It was just laughing, and then we swapped details. He got me in contact with Imam Badra, and we started doing weekly classes there. And obviously, my steps started from there. And finally being able to attend Jalsa for the first time was like a blessing for me. I remember sitting there and I was literally in tears as we was doing the back sermon with Hazuru. I was crying and I was like, God was saying, this is your home. This is where I want you to be all this time. And remember I was sharing with my family, like, this is where I'm meant to be all these years. Like, this is what I was searching for. And ever since then, I've always felt that connection. I remember even asking one of my cousins who was a youth pastor in the church, I said to him, how much times did you used to pray as a pastor? Like, and he couldn't even answer me that question. And I said to him, do you know what's the greatest thing now? I can pray 5 times or even more a day. And when I said that to him, he said, true. I said, do you know what? When I can recall it, I could sometimes only pray, 3-4 times a day or 3-4 times a week. I mean, and this is someone who's meant to be a youth pastor in the church. So it just showed me, like, this is what I was missing. This is what I'm missing. Because in church, people only pray when they're in the church. And that's if it's a Saturday, Sunday, or whenever they go. But when they're at home, most of the time people are living a different life. They're not the same person. And I never wanted to be that type of person. I wanted to be that person that lives the same life within the church or without the church. But now, as being a Muslim, I'm able to pray. Even at work, my colleagues know when it's time for prayer, I say, sorry, I need to go and pray. And there's no issues with that. I separate my time to go and pray throughout the day. If I'm at home, if I can't make it to the mosque, I pray at home. And when I get time to go to the mosque, I make sure I go and I pray together with my brothers. But it's been an amazing journey. And for anyone, even my colleagues, they all know, I always talk to them about what we do from the community, because obviously there's always a lot of things shown in the media about how Muslims are and stuff like that. But I let them know, listen, this is not what we do. This is not what Islam's about. This is just people who interpret things in the wrong way. And if anyone was to ever come and ask my colleagues, how is Sherwain as a Muslim, I'm sure they will have something good to say. But for what I can say, since being a part of the Ahmadiyya community at Jamaat, it's been a great blessing in my life. I'm much more happier. The stress that I used to have, the depression I used to have, that's all gone. My life is thriving forward now. Just obviously still improving on stuff. I'm still trying to get better to stuff, still trying to learn and better my life as a Muslim, as a servant of God, and obviously trying to do my best to help others. But that's all I have to say for now. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask.